friends, it's Christy. Welcome to day 17 of my 2018 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Thanks a Latte as well as the Oh Snap mini stamp set. I'm stamping my images out with Memento Tuxedo Black ink on some Copic friendly cardstock, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers today. So the Thanks a Latte set comes with various inserts that you can stamp inside the mugs. I chose to do the hot cocoa and then just a basic rim. So I'm starting with the mug with the hot cocoa, and for that I'm using B21, B23, and B26. I'm using the B26 to lay in some shadows, and I'm going to do my light source kind of head on, so I'll do some shading on both the right and the left. And that is going to help the mug look round and kind of lift it off the page. I also added a little bit of shading on the inside of the handle. Then I'm going to come in with the B23 and begin to pull out that darker color and just pull it towards the center of the mug. I'm doing a light flicking motion and just going back and forth over that until the B26 is all nice and blended into the B23. Then I'll bring in the B21. I'm going to fill in that area on the far side of the mug on the rim there, and then I'll pull that B23 towards the center. I'm going to carefully color around the snowflake because I want that to be a different color and really create that nice highlighted area that's going to help it look round. Then I'll move on to my second mug, and for that I'm using R20, R21, and R22. I'm using the R22 first. To do the same as I did on the larger mug, I'm just laying in my shadow on both sides and on either side of the rim and on the inside of the handle. Then I'm going to pull all of that out with the R21. And I'm going to really scrub back and forth over that R22 and pull that color towards the center. I really want it to soften up and kind of dissolve into the mid-tone. Then I'll grab that R20, which is just a hint lighter than the R21, but it's just enough that it's going to make that nice highlight in the center of the mug. But because these shades are pretty close together, I did decide to go back in with a double layer of each of those tones and just reinforce the contrast and make it stand out just a little bit more. For my candy canes, I still wanted to stick with kind of this softer color palette that I've got going on, kind of, I guess, a medium toned. It's not bright, but it's not real pastel either, but so I didn't want to go with my usual red combo. I wanted something a little bit more pink toned. So I'm using the R22 and the R24. And I did decide that I needed a third shade. So I grabbed that R21 once again and used that for my highlight. And I'm just going to color one of these on camera since they're both exactly the same. And then for the white stripes, I'm going to add a little bit of shading with the W00 and the W1. For both my cocoa and my coffee, I'm using E43, E44, and E47, starting with the E47 and laying in a dark shadow right on the edge of the rim where the rim would be casting a shadow down onto the liquid. And then blending out with the E44, and then I'll finish up with that E43, just carefully coloring around those marshmallows. For the marshmallows, I started with Y000. I was trying to work some yellow somewhere into the card because it was part of the Color Inspiration Challenge for Lawn Fanatics. But I didn't like the yellow on the marshmallows, so I decided to go in with the E41 instead and give them just a little bit of a more brown hue. And I also did the little whipped cream dollop as well. And then I blended that out with the colorless blender. I just wanted to knock back that brown a bit and make it a little bit more of a creamy white. For my gingerbread men, I'm using E13, E15, and E17. I thought this was a good combo for them because it has kind of a reddish undertone, so it kind of makes me think of molasses and all that good stuff that gingerbread is made of. So I am using the E17 on the outsides of their bodies to kind of mimic the shading on the mugs, and then pulling that toward the center with the E15, and then filling everything in with the E13. And just like the candy canes, I'm just going to show one of these on camera since they're both exactly the same. And then I still needed to work in that yellow somewhere, so I'm using the Y11 to color in their buttons and also the snowflake on the blue mug. And then I'll trim these all out with the matching dies. Once I have those die cut, I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and just cut a little slit into the back of each of the mugs. So I'm just going carefully around those marshmallows on this one, and then I'll do the pink one exactly the same. Before I continue on, I wanted to stamp out my sentiment. I'm using Lawn Fawn's Manatee ink to stamp out warm wishes on some yellow Gotta Have Gingham pattern paper from Lawn Fawn. So this is another way to pull in that yellow shade. And I did stamp that down 3 times because I wanted a pale gray, but I wanted it to be very visible since this ink does dry back a bit. And then while I have my Misty out, I'm also going to stamp on the inside of my card, and I've switched to Hippo ink so it stands out. And I'm using the little string of gingerbread men plus the sentiment that says Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, which is from Merry Messages. And the string of gingerbread men is from Simply Celebrate Winter. They weren't stamping very well down at the bottom. I think maybe they were too close to that sentiment. So once the sentiment was dark enough, I peeled that off and re-stamped them until they were nice and clear. For my focal panel, I trimmed out a piece of cheap white cardstock with the zigzag rectangle stackables, and then I also die cut a piece of the Lawn Fawn Really Rainbow Christmas paper and adhered that to the white cardstock. And then I've got a strip of the Gotta Have Gingham pattern paper that I'm going to use kind of as a tablecloth. I'll add my sentiment down at the bottom, which I trimmed out with one of the Everyday Sentiment banners. And then I've popped my 2 little gingerbread men into my mugs because I wanted them to be having a little cocoa spa day. So I've added them to the backs right in that little slit that I cut with the X-Acto knife, and now I'm gluing them into place on the card. So the one is having a great time at the spa, and the other guy is having not so great of a time at the spa. So I think their expressions are just super adorable and funny. So not only does the guy on the left have to sit in a pink mug, but he's also going to have a floating dollop of whipped cream that's kind of getting in his way that he's not happy about. So I just had so much fun making little stories up in my head about these 2 guys. I'm going to add the candy canes right down in front of the blue mug to kind of pull that pinky red across the card. And I had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out exactly where I wanted the second one. I ended up shifting that quite a bit. Thank goodness I was using liquid glue and was able to do that. And then the marshmallows I'm going to pile over on the right hand side since the marshmallows in the mug are on the left. So that's also going to kind of pull those across the scene and just kind of make it a little bit more visually interesting. And I fiddled with them quite a bit too. I didn't want it to look like a neatly piled up stack. I wanted it to kind of look like they'd kind of just been dumped out of the bag or something, a little bit more organic of a layout. So then I'm going to move back to my card, and I'm going to take some more of that Gotta Have Gingham pattern paper. I've trimmed it down with the Lawn Fawn outside in stitch rectangle stackables so that you can see a little bit of the gray cardstock poking through on the edges. I've added some foam tape to the back of my focal panel, so I'll peel off those release papers, and then I'm going to line that up in the center and pop it down into place. As a final embellishment, I'm going to grab my favorite crystal stickles, which I can't seem to make a card without this holiday season, and I'm going to add some glitter to each of the marshmallows and also to the dollop of whipped cream, and then I added a little bit of a streak to the candy canes as well on the outside edge. And that is going to complete our card for today. I'll lift it up so you can see all that sparkle and shine and give you another peek at the inside. I think those gingerbread men are so cute there. So I hope you guys have enjoyed day 17 of my 2018 holiday card series. If you did, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to have your support. If you'd like to keep on watching, here's 2 videos from previous years of holiday card series. You can click on either one of those. And I hope you all have an amazing day and are having an amazing holiday season. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.